I grew up out of Western Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh guy, a diehard Steelers fan. So for me growing up, it was that. It was toughness. It was physicality. That was part of my upbringing and who I am, the blue collar mentality and mindset. And that's the way I coach.
Episode 141 featured Manny Rojas, the defense coordinator at the University of Delaware. We spoke about the importance of preparation, physicality, and toughness in his coaching approach. He also advised young coaches to be patient and focus on the present, and most importantly, be prepared for potentially low-paying jobs and long hours early in your career, but focus more so on the experience and learning. Also excited to collaborate with our friends over at Coach and Share, the go-to online marketplace for coaches to buy and sell products. I hope you guys enjoy the episode today. It's going to be very exciting, so let's dive right in.
Justin, thank you for having me. Really appreciate the time.
Yes, sir. Looking forward to it. So, Coach Rojas is in his second stint at the University of Delaware, where I think you were saying you were the linebackers coach originally.
Yes, sir. I was there 2017, 2018 as the linebacker coach. And one of those years I was special teams coordinator with another guy on our staff, Clint Sintham.
Awesome. So, coming into your second stint at the University of Delaware, now you're the defense coordinator. Can you talk about your career, coach, and how that's evolved over the past 15 or so years that you have been coaching?
Sure. I started my career at Liberty University. I played there 02 to 06, really before Liberty was Liberty. It was kind of cool. We were talking about it yesterday in our defensive staff room and just really what it was like back then compared to where it is now. But I started there. I worked there from 07 to 2012. And then in 2012, we left to take a job at the University of Richmond as a staff. Danny Rocco, the head coach then, left Liberty to go to Richmond, asked me to go with him. I had that opportunity. I went with him to Richmond. And I think, Justin, that's really where my career started to take off a little bit. For 2.5 years or so there, I was still a restricted guy, coaching a position and doing breakdowns and things like that. And then Byron Thweet, our linebacker coach, he left to take a head coaching job, I believe, if I remember correctly. And once he left, I kind of got moved up to a full-time role. I got moved into his role as the inside linebacker coach. And I worked very closely with Bob Trott there. And that really gave me the opportunity to really learn more football. And that was in 2014. So 2015 season, I worked really close with Bob Trott. And then Bob left to take the DC job at JMU. And in 2016, we hired a guy by the name of Chris Kosh. I worked with Chris Kosh then for 3 years after that. And Chris is a great person, really knows football. I learned so much from Chris in the secondary that really helped project my career. So I would say between 2015 to 2018 is where my career really took off from a position coach standpoint. And then in spring of 2019, John Garrett was the head football coach at Lafayette College. And John called me to come be his defensive coordinator there. And it was my first opportunity to coordinate. And I jumped on it. It was a great opportunity. For me, it was cool to be able to sit there and call it and honestly, just had to figure a lot of shit out on my own. Like it was like I had guys I would call and ask questions, but until you're doing it, you really don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
So I was there for 1 year, and then Chris Kosh left Delaware, and Danny Rocco called me and asked me if I wanted to come back in the spring of 2020, right before COVID hit. And then COVID hit. I came back. I was here for 1 week. COVID hit. They sent us home, and they're like, "Hey, we'll see you in a couple of weeks." And then before you know it, it was 6 months later, and we never came back until the fall semester. So that was kind of how my career has gotten started. I'll be honest, I've learned more football probably in the last, 10 years than I learned in the first 10 years. As a player, football was easy for me, but nobody really tells you what it's like going from player to coach and some of the things that you have to do and how stressful and strenuous it is. But I mean, hell, man, it was fun. It is fun. This day, it's fun. I enjoy what I do. It's not hard. I have 4 children at home, and my wife stays home and takes care of them. That's hard. I mean, that's a hard job. Coaching football is easy. It's a lot of fun. So that's my career path and how I kind of got to where I'm at now. And then, Danny Rocco got let go, and after the 2021 fall season, Ryan Carty came in. I had a chance to interview with Ryan Carty when he first got here. Him and I spent about 3 or so hours together, um, and he made a decision to retain me, and I am greatly appreciative of that. And I've had a lot of fun here since with Coach Carty. He's a great person. He's an offensive guy, so he kind of lets me do what I do on defense. So it's been a lot of fun.
Thanks again to our friends over at Coach and Share for sponsoring today's podcast. I checked out the website, and they have a lot of interesting products from guides to templates. Definitely check it out. It's called coachandshare.com.
Yeah. And a lot of things I wanted to ask you about. So first,
Mhm.
with your transition from player to coach, you talked about that being obviously, maybe a little bit of a wake-up call. And a lot of the people that I talk to, they just mention that you think you know football as a player, but you really don't know as much as you don't know until you're a coach. So can you talk about that and what that experience was like for you specifically?
Yeah, so I was very privileged as a young coach. I got to GA for Danny Rocco and Tom Clark. Tom Clark was our defense coordinator at Liberty University, and now he's the offensive coordinator at Shepherd. But Tom is a great person to learn from. And then on top of all that, our special teams coordinator, D line coach, was Chad Wilt at the time, and I lived with Chad. So I learned a very organized concept from Chad Wilt and how he did things because he came from the University of Virginia and how they did things. And the single greatest piece of advice Chad ever gave me was um, figure it out. And I tell people this story all the time. I had to put practice scripts together as a young GA, and he gave me 8 pieces of paper and he wanted it on one sheet. And I went down to the copier and there I sit for hours. Chad, I can't do this, man. It won't work. And he was like, it will. I've done it. Go figure it out. And I was like, okay. And I sat there at the copier for another couple hours. I figured it out. So I was very blessed to have an opportunity to work for guys like that. But you don't really, as a player, you get downtime. You get time to go back to your dorm, your house, relax. It's not always go, go, go. As a coach, it's go, go, go. From the time we get there at 5:30 in the morning to the time we go home at 9 o'clock at night, especially during camp, like there is no, hey, I get to sit on the couch and put my feet up. There is no, hey, I get to take a nap. It's go, go, go. When you kind of, as a young coach, I didn't know that. I'd lay down on our linebacker coach had this little like love seat in his office, and I sat down on it and almost like fell back. And he walks in and goes, no, 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 get up. Come on, let's go. Keep rolling. So I had to learn that. And that was tough. It was different. From the X's and O's standpoints, I think you learn that as you go, no matter what. But I think it's how your body adapts to the stress, but the constant going and never stopping.
Yeah. And that's something it really just comes from experience. I don't know because I never coached college football, at least yet. I,
Yeah.
I got into coaching a little bit when I graduated college, just for a middle school team. But going back to your career, especially in recent years, coach, so you guys have had success over the past few years, especially. And in 2022, I just saw on your website that you guys have held opponents to under 10 points in five, and was it 5 of your 6 wins?
Probably something like that.
Okay. So can you share some of, and I know we talked about some of the mindset stuff,
Yeah.
but can you share some of what went into that for you and the preparation and mindset
Yeah.
it took to do that?
Heck yeah. For me, I grew up out of Western Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh guy, a diehard Steelers fan. So for me growing up, it was that. It was toughness. It was physicality. That was part of my upbringing and who I am, the blue collar mentality and mindset. And that's the way I coach. In 2022, we had a very veteran team. We had probably 9 out of the 11, maybe 10 out of the 11 guys on defense were starters from the year before. So we were very seasoned, very veteran. So I think for them, it was easy. Like what we were doing, they knew it, they understood it, they understood the adjustments and how to make changes on the go and things like that. So I think that played a huge part in it. But one of the things we always talk about, Justin, the single most important stat on defense, I don't care what anybody will tell you, is points per game. How many points are you giving up per game? Takeaways are great, sacks are good, yards per play, all that stuff, etc. Blah blah blah. But the number one thing is going to be points per game. How many points per game are you giving up? And that's what we talk about every year. And I take this stat from Tom Clark, who said it to us in 2006 when I was a senior captain for him, was 17 points or less will put you in the top 10 in scoring defense in the country. So we talk about that every year at the beginning of every camp. That's our goal, and that's our number one objective is 17 points or less per game. And sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. And my kids will tell you that we could be going the entire game and giving up 3 points, and we give up 7 points in the last minute. I lose my shit. Whether we're winning by 40 or we're in a close ball game, just because I don't want to give up a touchdown. And I don't think, as a defensive player, I don't think anybody does. But I do understand how hard it is to get shutouts in today's game. It's not easy. But the closer that we can get to getting those, the better off we'll be. So it's a mindset that we talk about: physicality, toughness, and then points per game. And that's how we coach it.
Yeah. So going back to early on in your career, Coach, when you were just getting started off, knowing what you know now, what, if anything, like would you have done differently?
I would remind myself about patience. I got a little impatient early in my career, probably 6 or 7 years into it, saying, "Oh, I should be doing this, I could be doing that," and it just came full circle for me. And kind of like when I made the transition, when Byron Sweet left, I kind of made this transition. And I was like, "Okay, I get it, I understand it. Just the time will come. The time will come." And the great thing about it was, even later in my career, when we were here, I felt that I was ready to be a defense coordinator, and I was sitting there and I was talking to my wife about things, and like, it's never going to happen. Nothing's going to happen here, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, boom, John Garrett called me. So it's just that ability to have patience and not always be thinking about what's next. I read a great book by Darren Donnelly, Think Like a Warrior. And in that book, he talks about having the ability to just have patience. And when the time is right, things will happen. Time comes, those things work out. So to this day, that's any advice I give any young coach. That's any advice I continue to give myself. Not that I'm looking to go anywhere. I love Delaware and where we're at and what I'm doing here. And I just kind of put the pedal down and do what I'm supposed to do, how I'm supposed to do it. Try to do it better than I did last year. And when things happen, they'll happen. And it's just the moment of time.
Yeah. And I think the name of the game is just being ready when your name is called. And
that's it.
You're still a younger coach in the grand scheme of things. So I mean, you're obviously going to have a lot of those opportunities, and I think you said it perfectly too. Just being present where you're at, because just do the best job with where you're at, and then things are going to work out. So
heck yeah.
Any last words, Coach, you would want to share with the audience today?
I think, as a young coach, you want to get into this profession. I think in today's world, Justin, the things that people tend to forget and realize is that first jobs are penniless jobs. Like myself, Coach Cardi, Art Link, who's on our staff, we all talk about the first time we started out making, $6,000 or 10 grand or 12 grand, whatever it was. Shit, I volunteered my time for the first 7 months of my career. And like those things, I think sometimes go unnoticed. Well, I got to get a job and I got to get paid, or I got to get a job and I got to, do this. You got to find a way and figure it out. Like that's the biggest thing I can say for a young coach. It's not glory. It's not all that is cracked up to be as a young guy. It's hard work. And if you're willing to do it and sacrifice and hold on for, I don't know how long, it could be 6 months, it could be a year, it could be 2 years. It depends on who you're with and where you're at, but find a way to get it done and figure it out is a great motto and mindset that I've carried in my career for the last almost 20 years coaching.
Yeah, no, I love that. Coach, best of luck as you guys head into spring ball. Really appreciate you making the time, and
heck yeah,
thank you again.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it, Justin.